Think about your circulatory system for a moment. Right now, as you sit here watching this video, your heart is pumping blood through roughly 60,000 miles of blood vessels. Every organ in your body depends on that flow. Your brain needs it to stay sharp. Your muscles need it to stay strong. Your heart, your kidneys, your skin, your energy levels, all of it runs on the quality of your circulation. And here is what most people do not realize until they are well into their 50s or 60s. The foods you eat every single day are either supporting that system or slowly working against it. We are not talking about dramatic overnight changes. We are talking about a quiet process, a slow narrowing, a gradual stiffening, a steady accumulation of inflammation in blood vessel walls that happens across years of what seemed like normal eating. And by the time you feel the effects in the form of less energy, colder hands and feet, slower recovery, occasional brain fog, or poor circulation in your legs, the process has been underway for a long time. But here is the good news, and this is why this video matters. The research is genuinely encouraging. What you eat can influence how your blood vessels function. The right foods, eaten consistently, help blood vessels stay flexible, reduce the inflammation that narrows them, and support the natural compounds your body makes to keep blood flowing freely. And there are 7 specific foods that the science keeps pointing back to again and again as especially valuable for circulation as you age. We are going to cover all 7 today, and stay with me to the very end because food number 7 is the one that surprises people most. It is a food most people already have in their kitchen, and most have no idea that it has been studied for its effects on blood vessel health in some genuinely impressive research. Welcome to Longevity Insight. If you are not yet part of this community, now is the time to hit subscribe. We put out a new video every week focused on the real science of healthy aging, what the evidence actually says, not what the supplement industry wants you to buy. There are tens of thousands of people here who are choosing to take their health seriously with information they can actually use. Subscribe, and let's get into this. Before we get to the foods themselves, it is worth spending a moment understanding what happens to circulation as we age, because it changes how you think about everything that follows. The inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, is one of the most important tissues in your body. It is a single-cell thick layer that lines every artery, vein, and capillary, and its job is not passive. Healthy endothelium produces a molecule called nitric oxide, which acts as a natural signal that tells the smooth muscles surrounding blood vessels to relax and widen. When blood vessels dilate, blood flows freely. Blood pressure stays in a healthy range. Organs receive the oxygen and nutrients they need to function well. As we age, endothelial function naturally declines. Nitric oxide production decreases, vessels become stiffer and less responsive, inflammation in vessel walls increases. The result is a gradual impairment in the body's ability to regulate its own blood flow. Research published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology in 2025 confirmed what nutrition scientists have argued for years, that plant-based dietary patterns rich in minimally processed foods, vegetables, and fruits reduce cardiovascular risk, while patterns rich in ultra-processed foods, sugar, and saturated fat increase it. The mechanism runs directly through endothelial function and inflammation. With that context in mind, here are the 7 foods. The first food is beets, and the science behind this one is genuinely impressive. Beets are extraordinarily high in dietary nitrates, a naturally occurring compound that the body converts through a specific pathway into nitric oxide. This is the same nitric oxide that endothelium produces, and more of it means blood vessels relax and dilate. Blood flows more freely, and the heart has to work less hard to push blood around the body. A comprehensive review of beetroot research published in Science Direct in December 2025, covering a decade of studies from 2015 to 2025, found that vascular endothelial cells exposed to nitrate-rich beetroot extract showed a 25% increase in endothelial nitric oxide synthase expression and a 30 to 50% elevation in nitric oxide production within hours. That is a meaningful shift in how blood vessels function, driven by a single food. A clinical study published in November 2025 in the American Journal of Physiology found that 12 weeks of nitrate-rich beetroot extract supplementation in older women enhanced blood vessel endothelial function in the femoral artery, improved microvascular reactivity in skeletal muscle, and increased what researchers called angiogenic potential, the body's capacity to support healthy blood vessel networks. And a systematic review published in late 2025 on beetroot supplementation in post-exercise recovery confirmed improvements in endothelial function and cardiovascular response following exercise in older women who used it consistently. You do not need juice or supplements to get these benefits. Roasted beets, beets in a salad, even canned beets all retain their nitrate content. The key is consistency. Including beets in your meals several times a week is the kind of habit that supports vascular function over time in a way that the research consistently backs up. The second food is fatty fish, specifically salmon, mackerel, sardines, and tuna. And this one is probably the most well-documented dietary intervention for cardiovascular health that exists. The omega-3 fatty acids in fatty fish, primarily EPA and DHA, work through multiple pathways that directly benefit blood flow and vessel health. They lower inflammation in vessel walls, which is one of the primary drivers of endothelial dysfunction and arterial stiffening with age. They improve endothelial function by supporting the vessel's ability to dilate properly. They reduce triglycerides. Elevated triglycerides are closely associated with blood vessel damage over time, and they reduce the tendency of blood platelets to clump together inappropriately, which supports healthy blood flow through smaller vessels. The American Heart Association, Mayo Clinic, and a growing body of research consistently support eating fatty fish as one of the most evidence-backed dietary choices for cardiovascular health. Research published in 2025 in a global burden of disease analysis found that diets deficient in seafood omega-3 fatty acids contributed to nearly 738,000 deaths and almost 18 million disability-adjusted life years from cardiovascular disease in 2021 alone, with the burden especially high among older adults. Recent 2024 and 2025 research continues to reinforce these findings. A review on omega-3 fatty acids and cardiovascular disease, published in 2025, confirmed that EPA and DHA support healthier endothelial function, reduce chronic inflammation in blood vessels, and modulate other vascular markers that matter for long-term heart health. The recommendation from most clinical nutrition experts is 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week as a baseline for cardiovascular benefit. For practical purposes, salmon grilled or baked is one of the simplest options. Sardines on whole grain crackers is another. Canned tuna in water a few times a week. The omega-3 content holds across preparation methods, which makes fatty fish one of the easiest foods on this list to incorporate consistently. The third food is dark leafy greens, specifically spinach, kale, arugula, and Swiss chard, and their mechanism of action is similar to beets. Dark leafy greens are among the richest sources of dietary nitrates in the food supply. A research review published in Science Direct confirmed that green leafy vegetables like spinach and lettuce are primary sources of dietary nitrate, and that consuming 4 servings of leafy greens, roughly 300 grams per day, can provide approximately 8 millimoles of nitrate, similar to the dose used in clinical trials to achieve measurable blood pressure and vascular benefits. That is a meaningful therapeutic dose from ordinary food. A randomized clinical trial conducted in subjects aged 50 to 70 with elevated blood pressure examined the specific effects of leafy green vegetables on vascular function. The trial found that leafy greens work through their nitrate content to generate nitric oxide in the body, which supports vascular tone and healthy blood pressure. The researchers confirmed that the conversion of dietary nitrate to nitric oxide through the nitrate, nitrite, nitric oxide pathway is a central mechanism by which a diet rich in vegetables supports cardiovascular function. Beyond nitrates, dark leafy greens deliver folate, potassium, magnesium, vitamin K, and antioxidants, all of which support blood vessel health through additional mechanisms. Magnesium, for instance, plays a direct role in vascular smooth muscle relaxation. Potassium helps counteract the blood pressure raising effects of sodium. Folate supports healthy homocysteine levels, which is important because elevated homocysteine is associated with blood vessel damage over time. The practical message is simple: a handful of spinach in a morning smoothie, a large salad for lunch, sautéed kale as a dinner side. These are not complicated changes, but their cumulative effect on endothelial function and circulation, practiced consistently over months and years, is supported by a solid body of research. The fourth food is berries: blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, and raspberries. And the research on these has been growing rapidly in both volume and quality. Berries are exceptionally rich in a class of plant compounds called polyphenols, and more specifically, anthocyanins, which give them their deep red, blue, and purple colors. These anthocyanins are not just pigments, they are biologically active compounds that interact with the vascular system in measurable ways. Research consistently shows that anthocyanin-rich foods are associated with improvements in blood pressure, endothelial function, arterial stiffness, and blood lipids in both healthy individuals and those with elevated cardiovascular risk. A comprehensive narrative review published in December 2025 in the journal Nutrients focused specifically on blueberries and their role in vascular endothelial health. The researchers examined how anthocyanins influence nitric oxide and endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the same pathway activated by dietary nitrates, and found that berry polyphenols support endothelial function by both stimulating nitric oxide production and reducing oxidative stress that would otherwise impair it. A randomized study published in 2025 looking at the effects of an anthocyanin-rich blackcurrant beverage on cardiovascular disease risk markers in healthy adults found that flavonoid-rich foods, including berries, have demonstrated cardioprotective benefits in multiple clinical studies, with the most convincing evidence pointing to improvements in endothelial function, blood pressure, and platelet aggregation. The epidemiological evidence, large studies tracking what people eat over time, shows an inverse association between regular anthocyanin consumption and cardiovascular disease risk. The more berries in a diet, the lower the cardiovascular risk. A cup of mixed berries in the morning, or added to oatmeal or yogurt, is one of the most enjoyable interventions on this entire list. The serving size that delivers benefits in most studies is achievable in everyday eating without any effort. The fifth food is garlic, and it has one of the longest histories in traditional medicine and one of the most interesting bodies of modern research behind it. The key compound in garlic is allicin, along with other organosulfur compounds that form when garlic is chopped or crushed. These compounds affect the cardiovascular system through several mechanisms. They promote the release of nitric oxide in blood vessels, supporting vasodilation. They inhibit an enzyme called ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme, which, when overactive, raises blood pressure and promotes arterial stiffness. They have antioxidant properties that protect the endothelium from oxidative damage, and they reduce the tendency of platelets to aggregate inappropriately, supporting healthy blood flow. A 2024 review published in the journal Nutrients on garlic and hypertension examined the clinical evidence across multiple studies and concluded that garlic consumption may modestly reduce blood pressure through mechanisms including nitric oxide release, enhanced antioxidant capacity, and ACE inhibition. A comprehensive 2025 systematic review and meta-analysis published in Phytotherapy Research and covering clinical trials through May 2024 found that aged garlic supplementation significantly affected systolic blood pressure and triglycerides, particularly in participants with established cardiovascular disease. Aged garlic extract has been studied extensively, but fresh garlic in everyday cooking delivers the same core compounds. Crushed or minced garlic, allowed to sit for a few minutes after cutting to maximize allicin formation, and then added to vegetables, proteins, soups, and sauces, is one of the most straightforward and affordable circulation-supporting habits you can build. It is also, as most people know, one of the most flavorful. The sixth food is turmeric, and specifically the compound curcumin it contains, and this is where the science takes an interesting turn. Curcumin is the bright yellow pigment that gives turmeric its distinctive color. Research has identified it as a potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compound, but its effects on vascular health go beyond general inflammation reduction. Curcumin has been specifically studied for its effects on endothelial function and nitric oxide availability in middle-aged and older adults. A study referenced in research published by WebMD and vascular health sources documented that curcumin supplementation improves vascular endothelial function in healthy, middle-aged, and older adults by increasing nitric oxide bioavailability and reducing oxidative stress, targeting exactly the mechanisms that decline with age. Research from 2025 continues to support turmeric's role in vascular health, with curcumin noted as a compound that decreases plaque development, lowers LDL oxidation, shields the endothelium from damage, and lowers the risk of clot formation. The practical challenge with turmeric is bioavailability. Curcumin is not well absorbed on its own, but pairing turmeric with black pepper, which contains a compound called piperine, dramatically increases absorption. Adding a quarter teaspoon of black pepper alongside turmeric in cooking or in a warm turmeric drink is the most evidence-supported way to get the benefit. Including turmeric in curries, soups, roasted vegetables, and rice dishes is not only vascularly beneficial, but also one of the most enjoyable things you can do in the kitchen. And now we arrive at the seventh food, the one I mentioned at the beginning, the one that surprises people most. That food is walnuts. Most people think of walnuts as a healthy snack, reasonable protein, good fats, fine in a salad, but the depth of the research on walnuts, specifically for vascular endothelial health and blood flow, is something that most people, including most people who already eat walnuts, simply do not know. A review published in the journal Life in November 2024 focused specifically on the protective role of walnut consumption on cardiovascular disease and the molecular mechanisms by which walnuts benefit vascular endothelial function. The researchers identified a unique combination of bioactive compounds in walnuts: alpha-linolenic acid, the plant-based omega-3 fatty acid whose metabolism produces vasodilatory and anti-inflammatory compounds; gamma-tocopherol, a form of vitamin E that actively reduces oxidation and inflammation in vessel walls; arginine, the amino acid that is the direct precursor to the endogenous vasodilator nitric oxide; potassium and magnesium, both of which support blood pressure regulation, and characteristic polyphenols with antioxidative and anti-inflammatory properties. The researchers noted something striking. Walnuts are the only nut type consistently shown to improve endothelial function across controlled trials measuring vascular reactivity. Not almonds, not pistachios, not peanuts. While other nuts have cardiovascular benefits, walnuts are uniquely positioned at the intersection of multiple vascular mechanisms, and the research reflects that. A clinical study on walnut consumption and blood pressure in older adults found that a walnut-enriched diet over an extended period improved blood vessel health, helped vessels stay elastic, and brought down blood pressure. Other research from Cambridge's Nutrition Research Reviews confirmed that walnuts consistently show positive effects on endothelial function, inflammation, blood pressure, and arterial compliance in human studies. The serving size that delivers these benefits in most studies is about a small handful, roughly an ounce or about 14 walnut halves per day. That is a completely achievable amount. Walnuts in oatmeal, walnuts in a salad, walnuts as an afternoon snack with some fruit. The mechanism is real, the research is solid, and the practical barrier is essentially zero. Let's step back and look at the full picture of what we covered today. Beets deliver dietary nitrates that directly boost nitric oxide production in blood vessels, with research from 2025 showing measurable improvements in endothelial function in older adults. Fatty fish provide EPA and DHA omega-3 fatty acids that reduce vascular inflammation and support healthy endothelial function, backed by decades of the strongest cardiovascular nutrition research available. Dark leafy greens contribute high nitrate content alongside magnesium, potassium, and folate, a nutrient combination that supports blood vessel relaxation and vascular integrity through multiple pathways simultaneously. Berries deliver anthocyanins and polyphenols that support nitric oxide production, reduce oxidative stress in vessel walls, and improve endothelial function in consistent clinical trials. Garlic produces organosulfur compounds that increase nitric oxide release, inhibit ACE activity, and protect the endothelium from oxidative damage. Turmeric's curcumin increases nitric oxide bioavailability and reduces the inflammation and oxidative stress that stiffen and narrow blood vessels. And walnuts, the surprise of this list, are the only nut consistently shown to improve endothelial function across multiple controlled trials, delivering a unique package of plant omega-3s, arginine, vitamin E, and polyphenols that no other common nut provides in the same combination. None of these foods is a magic solution on its own. The research is clear on this. What matters is pattern. Eating several of these consistently, combined with adequate hydration, regular movement, and the other healthy habits that support circulation. The cumulative effect of good nutritional choices over months and years is what the science actually reflects. And here is something worth holding on to. Every single food on this list is accessible, affordable, and available at any grocery store in America. There is nothing exotic or expensive on this list. Beets, salmon, spinach, berries, garlic, turmeric, walnuts. These are ingredients that belong in normal kitchens and on normal dinner tables. The gap between what most people eat and what would meaningfully support their circulation is often smaller than they expect. This is exactly what Longevity Insight is here for, to translate research into practical, usable information that supports real life. If this video gave you something useful to take to the grocery store this week, I want to know about it. Leave a comment below and tell me, which of these 7 foods are you already eating regularly, and which one are you going to start adding? I read every single comment here, and your answers shape what we cover next. And if you found this valuable, please share it with someone you know who is focused on their heart health or their energy levels. A friend, a brother, someone in your family who is trying to make better choices. You might give them information they genuinely needed. If you are not subscribed to Longevity Insight, this is your moment. Hit that subscribe button and join us every week. We are building a community of people who take aging seriously, not with fear, but with knowledge. Because when you understand what your body needs and why, making the right choices becomes a lot easier.